The boardroom fell silent the moment Jason leaned back in his chair and smirked at his mother. "We need to cut the dead weight," he said loudly. "Starting with Mom." 12 board members laughed nervously, unsure whether it was a joke or a command. Emma felt the air leave her chest, but she didn't argue. She simply reached for her purse, stood up and said softly, "I hope you remember this day, Jason." Without waiting for a reply, she walked out of the building, straight to her car. 3 hours later, she was on a plane to Austin, hurt, furious, and finally done being underestimated. As the plane crossed the clouds, Emma stared at her reflection in the window and whispered, "How did it come to this?" 3 months earlier, her husband, Mark, had died suddenly at 59. Together, they had built Hillman Tech from nothing, shaping it through long nights and impossible risks. Everyone assumed Jason would take over after Mark's death. Emma believed he was simply grieving, trying hard to step into a role too big for him. She ignored the small warnings, the closed-door meetings, the missing invitations, the "let me handle it, Mom" comments. She never imagined he would push her out completely. On the day of the board meeting, Emma arrived early as always, wearing her navy suit and the pearl necklace Mark gave her for their 20th anniversary. She thought she was attending a planning session, a normal leadership meeting. But the room told a different story. The lawyer avoided her eyes. The operations manager kept twisting her pen. Even Janet, who had worked with her since the beginning, looked strangely tense. Jason stood at the head of the table in an expensive suit, acting like a king preparing a speech. "Good morning, everyone," he said, smiling in a way that felt rehearsed. Jason clicked the first slide. Streamlining operations for maximum efficiency. Emma expected a discussion about software upgrades or departmental changes. Instead, he began talking about removing sentimental roles and eliminating outdated leadership approaches. His words felt sharp, but she didn't understand until he switched to the next slide. Cost analysis, non-essential personnel. At the top of the list was her name. Emma's breath caught. Jason spoke confidently, saying, "Some positions are here out of emotion, not value." Then he delivered the blow. "It's time to cut the dead weight." The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter. Emma sat frozen. The old Emma, the one who had built the company from scratch, might have stood up and defended herself. She might have reminded them that she secured their biggest clients, solved their worst crises, and kept the business alive during storms Jason never knew existed. But the woman sitting there now felt something shift. She no longer wanted to beg for respect from people who benefited from her silence. So she rose slowly, smoothed her skirt and said, "Jason, you will understand one day." Then she walked out with quiet dignity, leaving the room, the company, and her old life behind. When Emma reached the parking lot, the wind carried the final pieces of her old life away. She sat in her car for a moment, letting the quiet steady her breathing. Then she whispered, "No more." She started the engine and drove home with a clear mission: to disappear before anyone realized she wasn't coming back. At home, she looked around the living room where Mark's old chair still sat, worn from years of late-night planning sessions. "You'd tell me to stand up for myself, wouldn't you, Mark?" she murmured. Instead of answering calls, she packed a single suitcase. Before leaving Seattle, Emma made 2 important phone calls. The first was to Janet, the only person in that boardroom who looked ashamed of what happened. "Emma, are you okay?" Janet asked immediately. Emma replied, "I need one thing. Don't ask questions. Send me a copy of the client list." Silence stretched before Janet whispered, "Text me your email." The second call was to her banker. "Mr. Lewis," she said firmly, "remove Jason from all my accounts and open a new one under a private address." The banker hesitated, but Emma's voice had changed. "Today," she insisted. "No delays." After leaving the bank, Emma walked into a clothing store she used to avoid. Bright colors, bold designs, things she once thought were too much. A saleslady approached her. "Looking for something special?" she asked. Emma smiled faintly. "A new start." The woman helped her pick flowing trousers, soft silk tops, and boots that added confidence with every step. At checkout, the lady said, "New job." Emma breathed deeply. New everything. By evening, Emma stood at the airport gate with only 3 bags, her laptop, and a one-way ticket. For the first time in months, she felt the smallest spark of excitement. During the flight to Austin, the young flight attendant named Carla noticed Emma's thoughtful expression. "First time there?" she asked gently. Emma nodded. "First time going somewhere with no plan," she admitted. Carla smiled. "Sometimes that's the best way to start over." Emma looked out the window as the city lights of Seattle disappeared beneath the clouds. "I'm not running away," she whispered to herself. "I'm running toward something." For the rest of the flight, she opened her laptop and researched Austin's growing business scene, realizing that with her experience, she could build almost anything, if she finally chose herself. When the plane touched down in Austin, Emma stepped into warm evening air that felt like a welcome embrace. She checked into a simple downtown hotel with a view of the lake and unpacked only the essentials. That night, she poured herself a small glass of wine and stared at her reflection in the window. "To the woman they called dead weight," she said softly. "May she prove them all wrong." The woman staring back looked different. Tired, yes, but stronger than she had been in years. Emma crawled into bed with a decision. Tomorrow, she would start rebuilding her life on her own terms. The next morning, Emma woke up before sunrise. She brewed a cup of strong coffee in the hotel lobby and sat by the window with her laptop open. She searched for apartments, business listings, and consulting opportunities. Halfway through her research, her phone buzzed non-stop. Calls and texts from Jason. "Mom, where are you?" One message read. Another said, "This isn't funny. Come back so we can talk." Emma turned the phone over, face down, and ignored the vibration. "No," she said quietly. "This time I'm choosing me." She spent the rest of the morning mapping out a brand new life. By afternoon, Emma met a real estate agent named Lisa, a lively woman with warm brown eyes. "Starting fresh?" Lisa asked as they toured a modern condo with huge windows. Emma hesitated, then said, "You could say that." The condo overlooked the city skyline, and the bright light felt like possibility. "I'll take it," Emma said without needing another look. Lisa smiled. "Austin loves people who are rebuilding. You'll fit right in." Signing the lease felt like closing a door behind her, a door she would never reopen. That evening, Emma sat on her empty living room floor, breathing in new beginnings. On her second morning in Austin, Emma made a bold decision. She opened her laptop and said aloud, "Time to build something of my own." She studied the client database Janet had sent. As she reviewed names, accounts, and old project notes, she realized something surprising. Most of Hillman Tech's major wins came from her work, not Jason's. "I did all this," she whispered. It wasn't pride. It was recognition. She saw patterns no one else noticed, solved problems others ignored, and built systems that kept companies alive. "Maybe," she said slowly, "I can build a consulting firm right here." Just as she began writing a draft business plan, her phone rang from an unknown Texas number. "Hello, this is Emma Hillman," she said. "Ms. Hillman," a man replied. "My name is Kevin. I run a startup here in Austin. Your name came from Lisa, the realtor. She said you might be open to consulting." Emma blinked. "Consulting? What kind?" Kevin laughed nervously. "The kind where someone saves us from drowning. We grew too fast and now everything's falling apart." Emma leaned back in her chair. "Email me your numbers," she said. "If I can help, I'll let you know." 3 days later, Emma walked into Kevin's chaotic office. Cables crossed the floor, tired employees worked at cluttered desks, and the whiteboard was filled with scribbles that made no sense. "Welcome to Murphy Apps," Kevin said, running a hand through his hair. "Don't judge the mess." Emma smiled. "I can't fix what I can't see." For the next 4 hours, she asked sharp questions, reviewed financials, and spotted the exact holes draining the company's money. When she finished, Kevin stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. "How long will it take to fix this?" he asked. 3 months, she replied confidently. Kevin followed her to the door. Will you take the job? He asked. Emma paused, considering. My rate is $400 an hour, she said. Plus a percentage of cost savings. Kevin didn't hesitate. Done. Emma hid her shock. Back in Seattle, Jason had treated her like she wasn't worth a single decision. Here, a stranger saw her value instantly. As she walked to her car, she felt a spark in her chest, a spark she hadn't felt in years. So this is what it feels like, she whispered. To be respected. And just like that, Emma Hillman Consulting was born. Running her first project in Austin brought Emma back to life. She created new workflows, trained employees, redesigned financial systems, and held meetings where her voice carried authority without needing to demand it. Kevin often said, I don't know how you see things so clearly. Emma only smiled. Experience. As weeks passed, success followed. The company stabilized, employees stopped panicking, and investors began praising the sudden turnaround. One afternoon, Kevin said, Emma, you're the best decision I ever made for this company. She laughed softly. Actually, Kevin, the best decision you made was admitting you needed help. Within 6 months, Emma had 5 clients across Austin. Word spread quickly. The woman who fixes chaos, they called her. She hired a young assistant named Priya, who told her on the first day, Everyone here talks about you like you're a legend. Emma chuckled. Let's just say I've lived a lot of life. Her small consulting firm grew fast, strong and steady. But the real transformation wasn't the business. It was Emma herself. She made decisions without asking permission, wore bright colors without hesitation, and woke up each morning feeling awake for the first time in years. One evening, after finishing a client meeting, Priya walked into Emma's office holding her phone. You got a message, she said. Emma glanced at the screen and froze. It was from a Seattle number she knew by heart. Mom, we need to talk. I heard what you've been doing in Austin. Priya raised an eyebrow. That's your son, right? Emma nodded slowly. Yes. What does he want? Priya asked. Emma stared at the message long enough for her chest to tighten. He wants my help, she whispered. Or he wants something because of my help. Priya leaned against the doorframe. Are you going to reply? Emma shook her head. Not yet. She placed the phone face down on the table. When someone pushes you off a cliff, she said calmly, you don't owe them a rope the moment they fall. Priya smiled softly. Then what do you owe them? Emma looked out the window toward the city lights. A choice, she said. But only when I'm ready. That night, she went home knowing one truth. Jason's message wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of a storm she had already survived once. 2 weeks passed before Emma finally heard a knock on her office door. Priya poked her head in and whispered, You're not going to believe this, your son is here. Emma closed her laptop slowly. Send him in. Jason walked in with a stiffness she had never seen before. His suit was sharp, but his eyes looked tired. Mom, he began, sitting down without being asked. I need your help. Emma folded her hands calmly. Help with what, Jason? He swallowed hard. Hillman Tech, it's falling apart. Emma raised an eyebrow. You mean the company I supposedly held back? Jason ignored the sting in her voice and pressed on. We lost 3 major clients. Morrison, TechFlow, and Brightwave. Emma didn't blink. Those were my clients, she said quietly. Clients I managed personally for years. Jason shifted in his seat. They said they'd return if you came back. They trust you. Emma leaned back. And what exactly do you want me to do? Jason sighed. Partner with Hillman Tech, merge your consulting firm with ours. Emma let out a small laugh. A merger. Jason, 2 years ago you called me dead weight. Now you want to combine empires. Mom, I made mistakes, Jason admitted, rubbing his forehead. I thought I could do things my way. Emma studied him. You pushed me out while I was grieving your father. You humiliated me in front of people I trained. And now you want me to bail you out. Jason looked up, eyes full of desperation. Please. The company won't survive another year without you. Emma stood and walked toward the window. Jason, I didn't survive, all I did just to walk backward. Jason rose too. Then what do you want? Emma turned slowly. To be treated like I matter. Jason's shoulders dropped. I know, he whispered. I ruined things. But I'm trying to fix it. Emma walked back to her desk and picked up a business card. Here, she said, handing it to him. If Hillman Tech wants my expertise, contact my assistant. She will schedule a consultation. Jason frowned. A consultation. I'm your son. Emma replied evenly. And you're also a potential client. Jason's face tightened. So that's it. Emma nodded. My firm. My rules. You want help. You come as a client. Not a son begging for a shortcut. Jason stared at the cards, stunned. 3 weeks later, Priya entered Emma's office holding a contract folder. He signed, she said softly. Emma opened the folder. Jason had officially hired Hillman Consulting at the highest rate. $500 an hour. He didn't negotiate. Emma asked. Priya laughed. He tried. I told him our rates were non-negotiable. Emma exhaled slowly. Good. That afternoon, she boarded a plane to Seattle for the first time in 2 years. As she looked through the window, the clouds below her felt like the perfect symbol. She was rising, and Jason was now coming to her from below. The moment Emma stepped into Hillman Tech's lobby, she felt the difference. The front desk was messy. The chairs were worn. The energy felt uncertain. Janet rushed toward her with a relieved smile. Emma, thank God. They hugged tightly. Janet whispered. It's been awful without you. Emma patted her back gently. Let's fix it. Upstairs, the employee faces told a clearer story. Exhaustion, confusion, and fear. Jason waited near the conference room, trying to look confident, but Emma saw the truth in his eyes. Welcome back, he said awkwardly. Emma responded. I'm here to work, not reminisce. The senior team presented their project updates, one by one. Each report felt like a slow-motion disaster. We're 6 weeks behind schedule, Mark admitted. Patricia added. Client satisfaction is dropping fast. Another consultant confessed. We can't identify the main issues. Emma listened quietly, her face unreadable. Finally she spoke. Your problem isn't deadlines. It's diagnosis. You're treating symptoms, not causes. The room went still. She pointed to the first project. Hartwell Industries. Your issue isn't warehouse layout. It's data misalignment. Gasps filled the room. No one had even noticed. Jason looked at her with something close to awe. Emma spent the rest of the day reviewing teams, workflows, and long-ignored problems. At one point, Jason pulled her aside. How do you see everything so fast? He asked quietly. She answered. Because I paid attention for 25 years. You only paid attention when it suited you. Jason looked away. I know. Emma continued. This isn't magic, Jason. It's work. Real work. He asked softly. Can you teach me? Emma didn't reply immediately. Instead, she studied her son's face. Finally humbled, finally listening. If you want to learn, she said, be prepared to start at the bottom like everyone else. That evening, Emma had dinner with Janet at their old favorite restaurant. He's really struggling, Janet said, cutting her salmon. Emma nodded. He built a house on sand. Now it's sinking. Janet sighed. Do you think he can change? Emma looked out the window. Anyone can change. The question is whether he wants to. Janet hesitated, then said, Emma, I think you're the only one who can save this company. Emma smiled faintly. Then I'll save it, but not for Jason. I'll do it for the people who worked with me when I had nothing. They deserve better. When Emma returned to her hotel that night, she opened her email and found a message from Jason titled, Please be patient with me. The message was long, shaky, full of apologies and fear. I thought I could replace you, he wrote. I didn't know you were the engine behind everything. Emma closed her eyes. "Oh, Jason," she whispered. "You thought leadership was about power. You never understood it was about responsibility." He typed no reply. Instead, she whispered to herself, "He needs to learn. And I need to lead." Tomorrow the real work and the real reckoning would begin. The next morning, Emma walked into the conference room with a stack of folders. "Today," she announced, "we rebuild Hillman Tech from the ground up." Jason and the senior team sat silently as she handed out color-coded plans. "You will follow these systems exactly," she said. Jason scanned the documents, stunned. "You redesigned the entire workflow overnight." Emma nodded. "That's what experience looks like." For the first time, Jason didn't argue. "Where do I start?" he asked quietly. Emma pointed to the last page. "You start with the basics. Shadowing, observing, learning. No shortcuts." Jason swallowed hard. "Yes, Mom." Over the next week, Emma met with every team personally. She corrected mistakes, clarified processes, and rebuilt trust with clients who felt abandoned. One afternoon, during a training session, Jason pulled her aside. "The team likes you more than me," he muttered. Emma gave a small smile. "They don't like me. They trust me." "Trust is earned," Jason asked. "Can I earn it too?" Emma studied him carefully. "Only if you stop pretending to know everything." Jason sighed. "I'm trying." Emma nodded. "Good. Trying is a start. But learning is a choice." For once, Jason chose humility instead of pride. As the days passed, Emma discovered something disturbing. Jason had taken out a large loan, one that could wipe out both the company and her own finances. She confronted him in his office. "Why didn't you tell me about the loan?" she demanded. Jason froze. "I thought I could fix things before you found out." Emma placed the paperwork on his desk. "If Hillman Tech collapses, I'm legally responsible for this debt. Did you know that?" Jason's face turned pale. I didn't think it through." Emma took a deep breath. "You didn't think at all, Jason. But I have to." That evening, Emma met with her attorney. After reviewing all the documents, the lawyer said, "You have two options. Walk away and let the company fall, or take control." Emma thought about the employees she trained, the clients she earned, the years she gave. She thought about Mark, how they built this company together from scratch. "I'm done walking away," Emma said. "I'm taking control." The attorney nodded. "Then tomorrow, you initiate the ownership transfer. You take the CEO seat officially." Emma exhaled deeply. "And what about Jason?" The lawyer shrugged. "He can stay. But he won't be in charge." The next morning, Emma walked into Hillman Tech with a new kind of confidence. The entire staff gathered in the conference room after hearing it was an important announcement. Jason stood nervously beside her. Emma stepped forward. "I want everyone to hear this directly from me," she began. "As of today, I am assuming majority ownership and stepping back into the CEO position." Gasps filled the room. Jason stared at the floor. Emma continued. "We will restructure the company, rebuild our reputation, and restore what was lost." A young intern whispered, "Thank God." Emma almost smiled. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here to lead. After the meeting, Jason followed her into her new office. Mark's old office. "Oh, I work for you now?" he asked quietly. Emma turned to him. "You always should have learned under someone before trying to lead." Jason lowered his head. "I was arrogant." Emma softened. "You were scared. But fear doesn't excuse betrayal." Jason nodded, voice trembling. "I'm sorry, Mom." She finally sat down, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Jason, if you truly want to stay, you will start from a junior management position. No titles. No special treatment." He swallowed. "I'll do it." Over the next 6 months, Hillman Tech transformed. Clients returned. Revenue tripled. Employees felt hopeful again. Jason worked harder than anyone, arriving early, staying late, asking questions, taking notes, and learning the work he once looked down on. One afternoon, after a successful project presentation, he walked into Emma's office. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Are you proud of me?" Emma looked at her son, the man he was finally becoming. "I'm proud of who you're trying to be," she replied gently. "Not because you're perfect, but because you're growing." Jason's eyes softened with something new: respect. The company's success drew media attention, and reporters wanted interviews with this CEO who rebuilt a fallen firm. During a conference, a journalist asked Emma, "What sparked this remarkable turnaround?" Emma smiled thoughtfully. "Being underestimated," she said. "People assume dead weight slows you down. But sometimes, dead weight is the foundation holding everything up." Later that night, Jason approached her. "You talk like you never blamed me," he said. Emma looked at him. "I blamed you," she replied. "But I also forgave you." Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. It just allows growth after them. Jason nodded slowly. "Thank you for not giving up on me." One evening, as they prepared to lock up the office, Jason paused at the doorway. "Mom," he said, voice soft, "what would you have done if I never came to Austin?" Emma smiled. "I would have kept building my consulting company. I was already thriving." Jason nodded. "So you didn't need me." Emma stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "I didn't need you to succeed," she said. "But I hope you needed me to grow." Jason swallowed hard. "I did," Emma replied softly. "Then maybe everything happened exactly how it was meant to." Months later, Emma stood in her office overlooking the bright Seattle skyline. Her journey, from humiliation to empowerment, felt like a full circle closing. She raised her glass of wine and whispered, "To the woman they once called dead weight." She smiled. "May she never shrink again." Jason knocked gently on the door. "Ready to head home?" he asked. Emma nodded and turned off the lights. As they walked out together, she felt something deep and calm settle inside her. She didn't just reclaim her place. She rebuilt it, stronger, wiser, and entirely hers. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising so high that the people who once underestimated you now rise because of you.